Welcome to the Academy. Nice. Hello, everybody. Let me know if you can hear me in relation to the beautiful sounds of Korban in the background. Game music is a bit loud. Yep, I can hear you. Lower game volume. Perfect. I think we're at a better spot now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the wonder of Star Wars: The Old Republic. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, this is a series focused on the lore, roleplay, and story of Star Wars: The Old Republic. So a really big focus on these things versus the actual gameplay or mechanics of the game. I'm so excited to be returning to this series. For those of you who have been watching the whole time or have come across this series on YouTube, the last time I actually played was back in 2018. So I'm very excited to be returning to this series. This is something a lot of you have been requesting. Oh, the music's still too loud. Sorry, guys. Here you go. You can hear me now. Perfecto. Should be a little better now. Perfect. Awesome. Sorry to blast your ears out. The sounds of Korban are quite cool, but a little too loud in this case. So one thing we're doing that's a little different than previous Wonder of Star Wars: The Old Republic episodes is that we are doing this live rather than me just talking to myself and playing through on my own. Live streaming is something that I've really been enjoying because I'm able to talk to you guys as you play. The downside is that obviously I'll be talking to people in chat as I play. It's a little less fun for those of you who are going to be watching down the road. So what are we going to be doing this specific episode of the Wonder of Star Wars: The Old Republic? Because I have not played this character in about a year and a half, it's been a while, I really want to dig back into his lore and his story and everything that we've decided about him. One of the things about this series is that you guys get to actually give your input about what's going to happen, not necessarily in the story more than just choosing the options there, but what's happened in his past and what might happen in his future with his personality, his story. You guys even went so far as picking his name, which was really fun to do. So we're going to be... Do you guys like the Baby Yoda quote that's showing up on screen? There's no Baby Yoda in SWTOR. How sad. So we're going to be reading a series of things that we've written about the Wonder of Star Wars: The Old Republic. If you wanted to follow along, if you're getting to this later, just search Wonder of SWTOR. And if you're here live, here is the link, and you can always come back to this. And if you want an example of like writing your character's backstory, this would be a really good start. This is very long because it's been done over the course of like a year. We just kept adding little paragraphs of things as we got to them and wanted to talk to them within the story. Oh, very cool. Dent's saying, ooh, I love this idea. My guild and I made a whole interconnected background short story, so I love stuff like this. I do as well. I got my start in role-playing doing it with other people. So this specific series, though, is going to be focused on just doing it alone and kind of creating a backstory for this character within the game's story, rather than creating a story to be played with other people. Though, of course, at any time, if I wanted to go role-play, I could take this character I've created, this Javik Sith Inquisitor Cathar, and I could go roleplay with other people very easily because we know so much about him. He's practically an NPC at the game at this point in terms of how much backstory he has. So we're going to be... Bonsoir. I don't know. So we're going to be switching over to the text, and I'm going to just be reading it out loud, and these are all things that you guys have given input in over the years, and for the different sections of Javik's life. So let's switch over to the desktop away from the Baby Yoda quotes. Apparently no more music, sorry. So The Wonder of Star Wars: The Old Republic is a playthrough series hosted by me, focusing on playing the game kind of for the first time. I'm playing it on a free-to-play account, focusing on the story and not acting as if I know everything about the game like I normally do. So we're going to be starting with Javik's basics. We decided he was going to be a Cathar. You can see his picture there. He has a dark fur. He's got some spots. He's got a little goatee. He's a big boy. He's not very old. He's between ages 18 and 25, so he's a young man. He doesn't quite he isn't quite sure of his exact age right now. So this is he was born on Alderaan. He was a page in House SWTOR. And for those of you who are wondering about what he's doing in-game, he's a lightning spec. And he might be doing healing at the end game. I haven't quite gotten there yet. He's about level 50-ish in-game, I think, so far. So that was a super short kind of first glance that we did with this character when we were first deciding him. Before we started writing out all these little paragraphs of information, we just did some quick notes about what are the basics of his life, where did he come from, what is he? So in this series on this live stream, I'm going to be doing a little less answering questions and suggestions and stuff like that. If y'all want to get answers to your like free-to-play questions or like questions about the game, come hit me up in the mornings. I stream at twitch.tv/Swtorista at 8 a.m. PDT, so 8 a.m. California time. That's about 7 hours before now, and then I stream in the mornings, and I'm way more up for answering questions then. And yeah, I'm Canadian. I grew up in the French part of Canada, actually. All right, so let's start getting into what we decided about his character. And yeah, his last name is Vetta. It does sound a little bit like Hutta. I think that was another name that you guys picked. So what did we decide about Javik? So here we go. The Vetta family can trace their lineage all the way back to SWTOR, where they were originally farmers and traders. Their distant relatives, though, were Force-sensitive seers and witches who abandoned their connection to the Force as impractical and dangerous and instead made their way into domestic life. Generations ago, members of the Vetta family were able to smuggle themselves away from the planet on a freighter full of refugees as one of the few families that were able to survive the attack by the Mandalorians and the genocide of SWTOR. Give me a second, I want some sweet tunes. There we go. Oh, it's not translating sweet tunes for you guys. Sorry, we'll just do it in silence. It's fine. So the Vetta family eventually landed on Alderaan and built a home for themselves as close allies of House Aldi, once again returning to their roots as farmers and traders, but also creating strong neutral trade ties with Sith-aligned houses including House SWTOR, even going so far as to serve as pages in their houses. This tradition carried on through the Vetta generations until the Galactic War began to break out, where Javik Vetta's young father decided to join the war effort and was shipped off to Dathomir, hoping to stop the genocide of a planet so close to their ancestors' home of SWTOR. And that's something super cool. We decided really early in the storyline, and we actually came back to it like a year later and went back and expanded on the idea of his father going back to Dathomir. So one really cool thing is that you don't need to decide everything about your character right away. You don't have to write them an entire book. You can just put down some notes, and then whenever you want to revisit any of those different parts, you can add to it. And you can, of course, change it over the years. You don't have to worry about keeping everything the same or consistent if you don't want to. So not long after, House SWTOR began to make declarations of their own, leaving Javik's mother unsure of their safety on the planet. Not having heard from her husband and presuming him dead, she quietly extracted her son, who was serving as a page under House SWTOR, and together they packed a majority of their trade goods into one of their cargo ships and left their Alderaanian homeland behind. So that's why they fled the planet. Unfortunately, they were not able to escape the war, even in the vastness of space. Through a series of miscommunication and misunderstandings, they ventured into Imperial space and came under arrest and were reduced to slavery. Javik's mother was sent to the shipyards of Balmora, and the young Javik was sent to Dromund Kaas to work on the unfinished Colossus. When it was discovered he once served as a page in a noble house, he was transferred to serve under a Sith Lord, where his Force powers were discovered, and was sent for training on Korriban. So as part of the Sith Inquisitor's storyline, you kind of are on Korriban in the Sith Academy, and you don't really get a lot of explanation about how you got there or why you got there. It's very much implied for the Sith Inquisitor's story that you were a slave at some point. You were indentured in some way, but it doesn't go into a lot of detail, so you really get to fill in the blanks yourself. So that's my little story. They were on Alderaan. House SWTOR got dicey. They left. Unfortunately, they got captured in Imperial space, and they were separated, and Javik was sent to work on the Unfinished Colossus on Andromeda. I'm sure you guys have actually seen that in-game. One of the fun things I wanted to do was incorporate things that were actually physically in-game into my story. Have you ever tried Star Wars Galaxy's emulator? No, I have not tried out. I really want to play a live game. And an interesting comment in chat, I sort of made my characters look to match my roleplay version of them, even if I don't roleplay much. Yeah, and one of the neat things about roleplay is you can decide what your character looks like, even if they don't quite match up with the options in the game. Maybe they have a scar or an eye color that doesn't actually exist in the character creator, and that's super cool. So now we're going to talk about Javik and his love of Force lightning. Javik's powers first came into play shortly before he and his mother fled Alderaan, but they were something his mother kept a secret even from him. She worried he would be abducted by the Sith on Alderaan the moment they detected he was Force sensitive. She used her own minor Force powers to dampen his, but once he left her protection, his Force powers began to manifest more strongly over time. Under the tutelage of Sith pureblood alchemist Lord Shallan, and then under apprenticeship of Lord Zash, Javik Buddha's connection to the Force flourished, with his strength and confidence growing by the day. Although he had not grown as ruthless as the Sith he encountered on a daily basis, he was far from the innocent young man he had been on Alderaan. The marks of using the dark side had begun to creep even into his physical appearance, and even those who once knew him would be hard-pressed to place him as the page who once worked for House SWTOR. Hey, Ixer. Tim Spark asks in chat, what class should I choose on Imp side? On any other stream, I would say follow your heart, but in this case, go Sith Inquisitor. Absolutely. So we're going to be going off next to what happened. What happened that Javik went from having one master to being with Lord Zash instead? On Andromeda, his Sith Lord Master began to sense his Force potential and decided to lay a trap. The Sith Lord left his own master's lightsaber, an artifact of blood and betrayal, somewhere Javik would find it and be tempted to lay hands on it. Javik eventually found it one day during his slave duties, touched it, and the dark side energy stored in the saber triggered his awakening Force powers, allowing them to bloom into fruition. His master then sent him to the Sith Academy to train and become a Sith acolyte. Javik's master, a retired former Sith pureblood teacher at the Sith Academy on Korriban, was named Lord Shallan. And this is something else you can do. When you're creating a character, they can be highly influenced by other characters that you also create. Most people often start with their family, like their parents. What are their parents like? If they have any siblings or twins, what are those like? And in this case, I decided to kind of expand upon Javik's first master, and how did that shape Javik? Lord Shallan avoided the politics of the Sith as best he could and focused on delving into the dark mysteries of the tombs and libraries on Korriban. During his final years of teaching, he advocated for including more impure races into the Sith Academy. One day, push came to shove, and the Sith had a heated debate about whether the new recruited alien acolytes would ever amount to anything. Javik's master claimed, "I promise you, I could make even a slave worthy of your respect." Ooh, what a good parting line. After his retirement, he wanted to prove his original statement to be true. Whilst visiting Dromacasa toward the site of the Unfinished Colossus, he met Javik for the first time. His years teaching had given him a knack for spotting talent, and there was something about this young Cathar slave that piqued his interest. He made inquiries, and to his delight learned Javik had at one time served nobility, and so made arrangements for Javik to join his crew as his personal steward. Hey Tim Roth, we are talking about my character's backstory that we created a while ago. We haven't played this character for a very long time, so we're kind of getting reacquainted with who is this character, what are their motivations that we wrote down on this awesome page. I'm so glad I kept track of all this. I don't know how I would remember it. For you guys, this just might, all you have to do is like make a Word document and jot down your ideas in bullet points. You don't have to write a whole story if you don't want to. Lord Shallan detected early on that Javik had some latent force sensitivity, and to amuse himself he tried to teach without teaching. He devised tasks for Javik that seemed innocent enough, but would encourage using the force without saying, "Use the force." Over time, Javik's sensitivity became stronger, but he was still very weak. A cup would move across the table, a holopad would short out in a small display of sparks. He chuckled to himself when these things happened, and he saw a confused Javik trying to hide what happened. His motivations are mixed. Though he has his own goals to achieve, he would also protect and teach his apprentice. So what happened next? What happened to this master? He kind of disappeared somewhere along the way. Lord Shallan, Javik's former master and a black sheep of the Sith Academia, focused on the Sith alchemy of creating Sith spawn, eventually involuntarily retiring from teaching at the Sith Academy to further pursue his research. Lord Shallan hopes to alter, augment, and improve sentient species, and not just the beasts of old. His studies will focus on Javik, a male Cathar touched by the Force, and will test his strength by pushing him into the Sith Academy. After all, what better subject could there be than one who's already half-beast? Only once Javik has proven his natural worth will the experiment continue, and fulfill his promise to the Dark Council. Although he has unleashed his apprentice into the wild, it's unclear if Javik walks entirely alone, or if he's still subtly influenced by his former master's whims and plans. This hasn't really come up yet in our story. I'm kind of wondering if it'll start kicking in somewhere down the road. Maybe especially when he goes and sees the Dark Council late in the story, for those of you who are familiar with the Inquisitor story. Before his disappearance, Lord Shallan was studying Sith alchemy, and his area of expertise was Sith spawn, modifying living creatures with the Force to enhance or corrupt them. He had recently developed an interest in sentient species, but it's unknown how actively he pursued this interest. Friction between him and his fellow teachers, and even him and the Dark Council, was high due to his views on recruiting alien species into the Academy and treating them equally to other acolytes. This difference in views forced him to retire, and he chose to instead delve into his research. That's such a cool little detail. You see a little bit of this conflict in the beginning of Korriban, and by the current expansion, 9 years down the road, that kind of conflict is still going strong, and with Darth Malgus pushing the idea that alien species should be taken advantage of in the war and in the Imperial efforts. While excavating and exploring the tombs of Korriban, he found something he kept secret from other Sith, something so powerful or dangerous that another Lord might want him killed over it. From this discovery, he decided that in the Sith alchemy, that to enhance beasts, more than pure dark side energy would be required. To test his theory, which strayed dangerously close to the light side, he would have to go to a planet less imbued with the dark side. He would not be welcome on Tython, as his motives were not benign, but instead would seek a planet that did not treat the Force as black and white, Jedi and Sith. Maybe he traveled to Voss to speak to the Voss mystics, or ventured to the dark heart of the forest with its twisted creatures to investigate further into Sith alchemy. Oh, that's so fun! So I kind of planted seeds for myself in the future. I haven't really decided exactly what Lord Shallan, Javik's former master, is doing, but I kind of like stuck him on Voss. So when I get to Voss in the story, I can decide a little more what's happening with his master and what he's up to. Swtorista, if you had a lightsaber, what would it look like? Oh, I have no idea. It probably kind of have like an ancient design. Definitely not one of those really sleek ones you see in the movies like Luke has, and definitely not a Sith looking one. So here's where we're starting to get into spoiler territory of the Sith Inquisitor story. There's a very important figure in the story called Lord Calig, and here's what you find out about him and what I've decided my relation to him is. We are on the Starforge server. Lord Calig appeared to Javik as a forced ghost in the Dark Temple on Dromenkos, claiming to be his ancestor. Blood of my blood, son of my sons. Lord Calig's story is largely unknown. A Sith male who had become Tulak Horde's top general during his lifetime. Even his species is a mystery. We had like a huge discussion about that, about what species Tulak Horde could have even been, with Javik being a Cathar. Tulak Horde said of him, "Easily the most ambitious and therefore the most dangerous of my rivals is Calig, therefore he shall be the first to die." When Calig was ambushed and assassinated, his family fled, his body entombed on Dromenkos. Before his death, the pro-alien Calig took a secret love-matched Cathar wife who bore him sons. Due to the Cathar's tradition of mating for life, these children would branch into Calig's lineage, eventually leading to Javik, his distant relative. What race do you want to see them add? I'm actually pretty happy now that they've added Togruta and Nautilin, and obviously Cathar for this story. I don't think I'd really ask for anything specific more. On Balmora, through Lord Zash's lust for knowledge and power, Javik was sent to the war-torn world of Balmora to recover an ancient artifact, the last known whereabouts of his missing mother, which is Balmora. Following the path of the artifact, the young Sith apprentice falls into his mother's slavery camp, the shipyards of Balmora. Arriving at the camp's entrance, Javik looked across the ships tethered to their docks and immediately spotted his mother, who recognized her immediately. This is where our story starts, the story of a young Sith apprentice returning to his mother. So for the next part, we actually just we're jotting down some ideas about Javik's mother, and this is once again some cool stuff that you guys had inputted. Nicole wants to know, did he get close with lovely Darth Lacris? I don't think Javik flirted or romanced anyone. I think he was going to romance Ashara whenever we get there, because they'll be kind of similar in age. So we decided Javik's mum was quite petite, quite small. She has pale white fur, unlike Javik. But she does look like him. She's got his eyes. She's very calm. She's very wary of the Sith and sending her son to the academy, like we talked about on Alderaan. She's the one who's related to Calig, so she's a bit force sensitive. She cares deeply about her family and does everything she can to keep them safe. She's sly but honest and suppresses her force powers when need be, and she's extremely careful and picky of who watched over Javik. And then we also jotted down some ideas about Javik's father, that he's a dreamer and an idealist, while his wife's more practical. He's quite large like Javik. He has dark fur like Javik, and he never managed to catch his wife in the act because he's either inattentive or his wife is just really good at misdirection. And he's not as charismatic as Javik's mother, but he helped grow the business through trading, and he was no slouch. So what we actually did, I really liked the idea of, yeah, Hyacinth is asking, y'all coming up with this yourself? Sort of. This is my character's backstory, so it's not something available in the game. I didn't quite make it all up myself, though. I did these series where you guys could give me ideas, and then I picked and patchworked them together into something that I liked. So we're going to actually listen to a short story that I wrote about this scene where Javik finally gets to reunite with his mother. I felt so connected to this idea of him returning to her that I actually wrote a story and I recorded it for you guys. So if you guys saw this back in 2017, I'm sorry, we're gonna watch it again. I hope you don't mind. with Javik's story so far, maybe this is your first time tuning in or you don't remember, I have left a short history in the description if you want to read that first. Go ahead and pause. Just pause. We're going to start the story soon. Okay. Javik ran across the dusty shipyard, weaving between the fuel lines and platforms that made up the industrial camp's backbone. As he ran, the slaves of the encampment looked at him hesitantly, but never paused from their assigned tasks. There were no thoughts in Javik's mind as he ran to her. He didn't stop once to think about how foolish he must look to the overseer watching the campgrounds, or about his pressing mission to disable the guidance systems. His mind was as blank as the look on his mother's face that he could see even from so far away. "Hey, Sith!" The overseer had spotted him, but the overseer wasn't a force user, and if Javik had learned anything during his time on Balmorra, it was the wishes of a Sith were never to be questioned. "It's her! It's her!" By now, a majority of the camp had seen him, a few brave slaves even breaking from their work on the supply lines to get a better look at the commotion. And then he reached the platform she was working on, climbing easily up the corrugated steps. As he did so, she finally turned her attention from repairing the tethers to the large Sith barreling up the platform. Confusion and fear showed in her eyes, and Javik knew in that very moment that even his own mother wouldn't recognize him the way he was now. Orange eyes, a hooded face, and a beast staring down at the encounter from the hillside were not things that his mother had left him with on that fateful day on their freighter. He stopped, his boots pushing against the metal walkway's railings, unsure what to do. But before he could make up his mind, recognition flooded into Shivavada's face. "My son," she said softly, in surprise and joy, holding out her arms to him. Javik had no words. Of course she would recognize him. He was her son, and she was his mother. Nothing would change that, and he walked to her, the frantic need to reach her from his earlier run now fading away. He accepted, wrapping his arms around her, and the two embraced tightly. "She's so small," Javik thought. "I've grown a lot since I last saw her." Even Shivavada's appearance had changed since they had been together. Her once creamy-colored fur had turned a dingy light brown from working on Balmorra, but otherwise she seemed unhurt. After a hug that felt like an eternity, Javik's mother let go first, but as she did so, her arms brushed across the lightsaber on his belt. Confused, her eyebrows narrowed, and she backed away from him. Looking at him cautiously, Javik could tell she was putting the weapon and his change of appearance together, and knew the exact moment that she realized he had become Sith. "No!" she cried out, backing away from him in anger and fear. "Mother!" Javik had so much to tell her. About his former master and his new one, how he could help her get away from this with his new status. About his force powers coming to life in the study of Lord Shallan. About how they could leave together and go find his father on Dathomir. "After everything I've done! After everything I've given up!" Shiva began to cry, her tears creating clean tracks on her dusty fur. "You become Sith? I didn't leave Alderaan for this. We left Alderaan to keep you safe. Please," Javik pleaded, memories surfacing. His time as a slave on the shadow of the Colossus. As he watched his fellow acolytes die in front of him. As he descended into the tomb of Marka Ragnos, there was so much to share, but all he could feel in his throat was raw emotion. They waited there, a moment, the entire camp watching, but neither one caring. In the distance, the overseer started to make his way down towards them. Javik finally found the will to speak. "Mother, I've come to free you, to take you home."
Do you know what mattress ranked #1 in customer satisfaction by J.D. Power?
One of those memory foam?
No. She stood there, shaking her head, also overcome by emotion. "We have no home, Javik. Not anymore. Please, let's just go, before the Overseer starts to make a fuss. I have a ship." The Overseer was getting closer, and Javik began to panic. This wasn't how he'd imagined rescuing his mother. Not even close. "I can take you to Droman Kos. I can get you an apartment there. I have credits. I have... Dromund Kaas! Shiva replied, aghast. The capital of the Sith Empire? I'd rather stay a slave than go there. He could hear her, but he couldn't understand her words. Dromund Kaas had not exactly been the picture of pleasant when he'd been there, but it would be no worse than throwing her into the cesspool of Nar Shaddaa. At least on Kaas City, he had connections and favors owed. Javik was not as good at putting two and two together as his mother was. His patience broke, and he used the commanding tone of the Sith he'd heard so often in the last few months. We don't have time for this. We need to go. Now. He grabbed for her, intending to bring her off of Balmorra whether she wanted to go or not. He was stronger than her, and a good foot taller. They could talk on the ship. She'd be grateful then, and they could talk about everything that had happened since they were safe. His plan was brought to an abrupt halt before he could even touch her. His hand was thrown aside by an invisible force. As he looked between his hand and his mother, confused, a thin purple aura began to grow around Shiva, forming a protective barrier around her, her hands outstretched as if to hold it up. Her reaction was involuntary, and her expression changed from anger to fear. Her secret had been exposed, not only to Javik, but the entire work camp. You could see her eyes flickering between the faces staring at them. She'd given up so much to keep him safe, and now it was time to give up everything. Lowering her hand, she tapped into the source of energy she'd kept hidden from her entire family for years. The blood of Lord Calig flowed as strongly in her as it did in Javik, but her connection to the Force was weaker than his. It will have to be enough, she thought to herself. I only need enough for one short moment. Curling her fingers and lashing out at him, she sent a jolt of Force lightning at her son. The purple energy crackled across his body and he shouted out in pain, not expecting an attack. Instinctively, he flung his hands out and reached for the Force, bringing down a storm of lightning on her. No! Javik cried out, cutting himself off, but it was too late. Shiva lay unmoving on the floor of the platform, the remnants of her Force shield fading away. Before he could go to her, the Overseer had climbed the stairs and was shouting commands. Finish her, Sith! Kill the impudent slave, or I will! Anger and panic set in, and Javik turned to the man, his eyes glowing a dark orange from under his hood. The Overseer stopped in his tracks, his eyes wide, and then slowly backed away, mumbling apologies with every step. Javik stared him down until the man reached the bottom, and then ran away to the safety of the nearby bunker. Javik walked over to his mother and knelt down, his earlier bloodlust fading. Mother? He shook her, but she didn't respond. He dug his hands into the fur of her neck, checking for a pulse. It was there, but it was weak. He picked her up and slung her over his shoulder as if she weighed nothing, stood up, and walked back towards the hill where he had left Kambal. You are weak, little Sith. Javik ignored Kambal and made his way along the terrain of Balmorra on his speeder. No one stopped him. As he reached the spaceport, his mother began to wake, and she spoke to him over his shoulder. You are Sith now, my son. You should have killed me there. It would have saved you heartache later. He ignored her words of wisdom, throwing her into the medbay and locking her in with 2VR8. He still had business on Balmorra. Weakly, she banged on the door and pleaded with him. The entire camp saw. The Overseers saw. If you don't deal with them quickly, they'll spread the word of your weakness. They're scared. It's not too late. Javik stopped, staring at the closed medbay door. He'd killed before. He'd even killed slaves before. She was right, it wasn't too late, and it wouldn't be any worse than the atrocities orchestrated by the Sith he'd seen on Korriban. He was Sith now, after all, and it would keep both her and him safe from the deadly word of mouth of the Empire. Javik returned to his speeder and sped across the plains of Balmorra. His mind was made up. It was time to disable the guidance systems and retrieve the artifact, and deal with the consequences of his weakness as they came. He wasn't a true Sith. At least, not yet. Ooh, that's some good stuff. That's not bad. not the best strider, but that one was okay, and it definitely conveyed what I wanted to share about Javik meeting his mother and how it affected him. So we have that happen, and then Javik kind of has to decide. This is just to be clear, this is something that I wrote. This is not a book or something in game. This is something I wrote about my character quite a while ago, back in 2017. So Javik had to decide, now that he's found his mom, what can he do with her? She becomes a true liability. So here's what he decides to do. Javik's mom, Shiva Vada, has been placed secretly in an apartment acquired by Javik to hide her in, so she may not be used as a pawn or a bargaining chip against him. Unfortunately, Javik is not without enemies and attracts the attention of an outside force, possibly Lord Scotia, who hires a bounty hunter named SWTOR to get dirt on Javik. That was actually a friend of mine. I was playing Flashpoints with them, and I said, "Can we work you into the story?" SWTOR is a hot-headed bounty hunter who has lost carefulness with time and gets caught by Shiva while snooping around the apartment. Instinctively, Shiva Vada fires a blast of force lightning at him. Surprise! The apartment was supposed to be empty, much less having a Cathar force user in it. SWTOR the bounty hunter performs a wise tactical retreat to collect his very generous reward for the intelligence he has gathered. SWTOR was not the only one surprised to feel force lightning. A perceptive Sith nearby named Kasaya also feels the sudden burst of dark force where there wasn't any before, and takes it upon herself to investigate the situation. Interested in archaeology, ancient research, mysteries, and the unknown, Kasaya might take a great interest in teaching a fledgling force user, especially if her son is Lord Sash's new apprentice. So these were two other friends I had from my guild who were very interested in roleplay and had some basics about what they wanted to do with their characters and what they were like, and we kind of wove a little story together. And you can do that with your friends as well, especially if you're starting some characters together. Like if one of you makes a trooper and one of you makes a smuggler, you can kind of make up a story about how they know each other and why they're working together. In this case, the bounty hunter player is actually going to be kind of an enemy of my character, and the Sith named Kasaya character is going to be an enemy / ally. We never really got a chance to explore that more, but I'll have to track down. I'm having trouble remembering because it was 2 years ago, whose players those characters belonged to. I probably should have wrote that down. We could probably track it down in some of our older Flashpoint episodes. Next up, in the Sith Inquisitor's story, a cult is created to meet the needs of the story. That's the Narshada cult. In-game, Javik chose to create his cult through an act of benevolence by liberating a cure for the rot plague and sharing it with less fortunate citizens on Narshada. In return, those cured joined the cult. Javik became beloved, and many gifts were given to his glory. Even after his departure, his cult will continue helping the lower class of the lower levels, attracting healers and supporting anti-slavery and oppressed aliens, all while keeping Javik's identity a secret. One day, Javik's mother may inherit his cult, as Javik descends deeper into the plans his master has for him. Dun dun dun! That was fun. And then the last little section is longer, but it's very focused on Javik's father, because we encountered Javik's mother, and then the question is, okay, where's Javik's master? Where's Javik's mom? Where's Javik's dad? As they all got kind of sundered due to the war. So we actually did a little more writing about Javik's father and his backstory, and Javik's father would be a trooper. Yeah, SWTOR is now on Steam. It's quite a cool addition. Quite cool to see. The Vada family had originally been allied with the Republic houses, and with their penchant for finding rare deals and forging alliances as free traders, they had become most aligned with House Pantier. The Pantier house was the most blue-blooded of all the noble houses, especially due to their allegiance to the Republic and their patronage of the arts. During the battle, the Vada's crops and freeholdings were destroyed by the orbital bombardment, as Javik's parents sought refuge deep in the underground cave complexes of Alderaan. Unbeknownst to the hidden family seeking refuge, the cave had a history of its own and had strong attunement to the Force. Javik's mother, Shivavada, was affected by the sleeping power in the cave and had a premonition that her husband would die in battle if he joined the resistance. She begged him to stay with her, but Javik's father had always been a dreamer and an idealist, and her insistence for him to hide only drove him further away, and he left to see what he could do to help the shattered world of Alderaan once the bombardment of their territory had ended. Leaving his wife behind, he hoped to help the royal families who had treated him and his family so well over the years, but even traveling to their estates was fraught with danger. Before ever reaching the royal houses, Javik's father discovered a militia force who was picking off Imperial scouting parties and helping where they could, as even the Jedi on the planet struggled to make even the slightest dent in the Sith invasion force. Clarence asked, do you have to rebuy all the DLC? No, if you already have it unlocked, you keep it, and if you don't have it unlocked yet, you just subscribe once. Hey, Azalori. Azalori actually helped me a lot with Javik's story back in the day. I know a lot of you are veterans and actually remember Javik, and we're excited to jump back in. Once Darth Malgus' troops were ambushed by troopers of the Republic Special Forces Division Havoc Squad, Javik's father was never quite the same, and he refused to speak to his wife about anything that happened after he left the underground sanctuary. Although Javik had not yet been born during the Battle of Alderaan, we had to do all this time stuff to figure out where and when he would have been. As a child, he idolized his silent father and his role in the battle. Due to a small deployment of Republic troops working with the militia to keep it organized, Rythan's skills as a soldier were quickly discovered by the Republic, leading to his eventual participation in the military years later, all in the service of the protection of his wife and young son. Trouble had been brewing years before the Battle of Alderaan, and the noble houses had experienced rumblings of unease even before the Sith launched a swift and savage assault on the planet. After the invasion, the royal family was in shambles, and the politics of Alderaan quickly became complicated, leaving the Vada family in the same state of confusion and fear as the rest of the less notable citizens of Alderaan. As lines were redrawn after the destruction of so many of the townships, the Vada family suddenly found themselves under House Thul's rule, who had taken advantage of the weakened House Pantir and finalized new borders of its own. Rather than fighting the claim, the Vada family decided to embrace their new lieges and rebuild their family home and farm on the ashes of their old freeholding. In an attempt to tie their family more closely to House Thul, Javik was sent to serve as a page in the noble house's estate, and not long after, his father would be sent to Dathomir. No free codes. What is your main character's name? My main character's name is Saya. This character's name is Javik, but I have a lot of characters that I play. And we're almost done, so we're going to talk a little more about Javik's father and his participation in the war. Ooh, we wrote a little short story again. The war on Dathomir was bleak, bitter, and danger lurked around every corner. Not only did the Republic's soldiers who had been stationed there have to worry about Darth Arctus's hand-picked Sith soldiers, but the very planet itself conspired against their every move. The Force-wielding Sith troops would cloak themselves in the natural mists to drag sleeping soldiers into the night. Rations and supplies were perpetually short, and mysterious deadly illnesses ran rampant through the Republic forces fighting what felt like a hopeless, endless battle. Rythan, Javik's young father, had joined the Republic military as an idealist, to help, to rebuild, to protect the ideals of freedom and peace that the Republic stood for. But on Dathomir, it was almost impossible to even see what the battle around them was trying to preserve. Rumors passed that Darth Arctus was looking for something that the Jedi Council didn't want him to find. He was the head of the sphere of ancient knowledge. Does that even exist anymore? And then men could only guess in whispers what he could be seeking, and what they were supposedly protecting. Rythan had joined the Republic military through natural channels. After House Thul accepted his son as a page in their house, Rythan became more familiar with the noble houses and eventually became a soldier of House Ulgo, and was quickly put to work rebuilding Alderaan while also training to protect the planet from future Sith invasions. Shortly after, he was scouted into the Republic military, where he felt he could better practice his ideals, even if it meant leaving his family for a time. The Battle of Alderaan had left scars on him, and the brutality of the Sith showed during their attack, left little room for doubt when it came to the validity of the battle. But Dathomir was different. There were no tortures. There were no townships burned to the ground. There was only war, and the Sith seemed almost uninterested in the few native inhabitants of the planet. Dreadful Rancor attacks were frequent, and he had even lost friends to toxic hallucinogenics released by the swamplands. Rythan had joined the war to protect other families like his own on Alderaan, but there was nothing on Dathomir that he felt was worth saving. When we wrote this, we had to do a ton of research to find out whether the Night Sisters were a part of the Old Republic. I think we came to the conclusion that although it's a bit sketchy, as far as we could tell, the Night Sisters and the Dathomir shamans were not quite a thing yet, so we decided to not include them. So we are reading out some background story that we've created for this character. So his name is Javik. He is a Sith Inquisitor Cathar, and earlier in the stream we went through his story, and now we're reading out stories that we wrote about his father. Just little short things to kind of explain what happened in their lives that kind of formed them and how it might affect Javik. So we talked about earlier his mother and reuniting with his mother, and in the future he's going to reunite with his father. But what happened to his father in the meantime will decide what state his father will be in when he meets him. Years later, Darth Arctis gave up his search, but he did not plan to leave the planet unscathed. Leaving a key ruin that was being used as a base seemingly undefended, Darth Arctis lured the Republic to attack through a combination of Sith sorcery and subterfuge. The base itself was not empty, but housed a majority of the beasts that the Empire had trained into their command, and the attacking Republic soldiers were met with the horrors the Sith forces had left behind. As the Republic began to realize their mistake, Darth Arctis ordered an indiscriminate, wide-scale bombing of the ruined fortress before retreating from Dathomir, not having found what he was looking for. Once the Empire left, the Republic ordered the retreat of what was left of its own soldiers shortly after. The Sith no longer had any interest in the world of Dathomir. Before his next deployment, Rythan was given leave to return to Alderaan to meet with his family, but he returned to an empty home and missing family. No one, not even the noble house members, had any idea what had happened to Shiva Vada and her young son Javik. Knowing that her ship and many of their treasured possessions were missing from their homestead, Rythan could only hope they had left of their own choice and were safe somewhere in the galaxy. The Battle of Dathomir was a horrific fight, but Rythan strongly still believed that if he fought for the Republic, there must be other planets similar to Alderaan that deserved to be a sanctuary of peace, so he returned to the military shortly after finding his family missing. The needless loss of life and the bombing of his unit had soured Rythan's view on the war, but his faith in his ideals was still strong, until the fateful day he received word of his next deployment. Dathomir. Darth Arctis had returned, and the pointless, endless war was to begin anew. Last part. And awesome. C-Rom told me in chat that the Sphere of Ancient Knowledge, that would be Darth Arctis' sphere, no longer exists. It's now part of Sith doctrine in the new Dark Council, new reformed Dark Council in the expansions. So last little story we have for Javik's father. After hearing he was to return to the hell that was Dathomir, Javik's young father, Rythan, half-heartedly agreed to return to the front lines after finding his family missing. His request to take longer leave to find his family fell on deaf ears, as the Republic could not afford to lose even one soldier in the bloody war against the Sith Empire. He turned to an old friend from the time in service to House Ulgo for advice. After a long argument, Rythan agreed to go to Dathomir, but during the journey he kept thinking about his family. Darth Arctis had brought new horrors to Dathomir, and the treacherous landscape had not changed. This time, though, Rythan had become an expert of the planet's deadly forests, and he was able to both lead his squad safely through the terrain, and also avoid the beasts and the dangers that lurked in the darkness of Dathomir. While he could keep his squad mates and newfound brothers and sisters in arms safe from their environment, He could not protect them from the terrifying attacks made by the Sith assassins and sorcerers sent by Darth Arkness in the night. During one of these shadow attacks, Rythan awoke to the screaming of his squad mates. Instead of attacking directly, this night their enemies had truly used the landscape to their advantage. The squad had settled down on damp swampland, and Darth Arkness' Sith sent Sith lightning into the wet ground, allowing it to travel to the sleeping soldiers without ever being within blaster range. Sick laughter filled the air as soldiers awoke to electrocution, and only a few of the Republic soldiers survived the attack long enough to chase the Sith back to the shadows. Dang, this story's dark. I don't remember writing this at all. Repulsed by the brutality of the Sith and the helplessness of their squad against enemies they could not even see, Rythan knew any more time on the poisonous, red-tinged battlefield would kill him. He could feel the fighting and the butchering of his fellow soldiers taking its toll on him, and he knew that, one way or another, he'd die if he stayed on the planet. Unsurprisingly, others shared his sentiment, and with the heavy hearts, began to craft a plan to desert their comrades and flee the planet. Very few of the soldiers had survived the night's attack, and all their communication systems had gone down from the lightning. They spent days waiting for the right moment to flee, but as Sith bomber squadrons began their run, they found the distraction they had been aching for. Yeah, technically this is fan fiction. I don't quite consider it fan fiction. It's more like it was something I wrote so that I remembered what I decided about my character down the road. It's kind of like an elaborate bullet point. Apparently this one I decided to take a little more time and write it nicely. It's not something that I would give someone else to read, which is what I think a lot of people write fan fiction for, like something to share with other people to enjoy, like a book or a story. Their escape was simple. No one was watching the supply shuttles when so much destruction was happening elsewhere. Rythan, being the only veteran aboard, calmed down the nervous soldiers and directed them to leave the planet and make the jump to hyperspace. Unknown to the soldiers, they were not alone in the ship. A young recruit from lavish planet of Comenor was sleeping in the ship's berth. Although exhaustion had kept her from waking during the soldiers' boarding, the ship's jump to hyperspace woke her from her deep sleep. Racing to the cockpit, she was surprised to find Rythan and two other soldiers handling the ship's controls. She knew immediately what they were doing, and what they were: deserters. Assuming there was only 3 soldiers on the ship, she launched herself furiously at Rythan, who was sitting in the pilot's seat watching the controls. She pulled a utility knife from her belt, screaming as she attacked him. In their surprise, she succeeded in her attack, her knife tearing through Rythan's shoulder pad, grazing his shoulder. As he cried out, he reactively grabbed for her and slammed her head against the console. Not knowing she was also a soldier of the Republic, Rythan's forceful blow was strong enough to kill her on the spot. Shocked and horrified, Javik's father immediately stood up and left the room. Her body was thrown at the airlock by the other soldiers, and they moved on with their plan to escape. He had gone from a war hero to a fugitive, a father to a murderer. Rythan felt his will to search for his family leave him, and all he craved was to be alone. The ship's maps led to many planets, and Rythan chose Tatooine to land on, a remote planet he'd heard was largely ignored by the rest of the galaxy. Once they reached the planet, though, dissent spread through the deserters. It was clear even from space that the planet was barren of life, and there would be no forests or mountains to hide in. Rythan and the other deserters argued, but in the end they outnumbered him, and he realized that no matter what the best course of action was, they would want to soon return to normal, civilized life. During the night, he stole himself away on the ship's escape pod and crashed into the desert of Tatooine. No more violence, no more death, no more orders. He was free. Wow, okay, yeah, that's everything. That was really dark. I really don't remember writing that last part, but I liked it. It's like a little surprise to myself. So one of the things I was curious about is what's coming up for the story. We have a little list of planets here. We are on Alderaan, and what's coming up is going to be Imperial Terrace, Quesh, Hoth, Belsavis, Voss, Corellia, and Ilum. So Tatooine we actually already passed, so at some point we're going to want to maybe go back to Tatooine and find Javik's father or something like that in the story. Voss we have quite a while down the road, and there's going to be some stuff there related to Lord Shallan and his previous master. And I don't know if there's we've got so the major planets of Imperial Terrace is next. We got maybe something could happen on Hoth, something could happen on Belcebus, and obviously something is going to happen on Corellia as he fully joins the war like his father. So that's going to be, it's going to be a very, very interesting thing. So yeah, that's everything we decided about Javik. I feel very refreshed in this story now. I know what's going on again. And now we can actually play. So what did you guys think of the story, especially for those of you who are new to it? I'm sorry some of you popped in halfway through reading. Ben has an interesting idea. An interesting story ending would be reuniting with his family and his master, but being made to choose between the two. Yeah, I'm not even sure at this point, like, what the status on his mother is. She would have joined that Sith and kind of maybe gone her own way.
Please select an available travel route.
Javik hasn't talked to her in a while because he can't hollow call her because he's trying to keep her a secret, and he can't go visit her because he's constantly being sent different places with his Sith master for Lord Sash. Don't worry, if he's going to Tatooine, he will leave all the Jawas alone. If he comes across Kara, the Jawa, he will not touch her. I'm glad you guys stuck around as I refreshed myself. It took me about an hour to read through all of that. I didn't, it just kind of added up over the years. Like I said, if you're looking to make a backstory for your own character, just start with a few bullet points. You don't have to write the whole thing at once. Throw the Jawas out the airlock. Yes, he slammed the Jawa into the console and killed it. Oh no. Tycon says you should do audiobooks or video game voice acting. Yeah, it's voice acting is a whole nother skill that I'm not even really doing right now. I'm just kind of trying to read it out nicely and clearly. But voice acting requires a lot of emoting and a lot of putting emotion and feeling and conviction into your voice as you read the lines. I'm not sure that's something that I have a knack for, and I really, really admire voice actors who do that. So one thing I've been trying to figure out, I'm SWTOR Siri. One thing I'm trying to figure out is, so in the previous version of The Wonder of SWTOR, when I was not doing it live, basically I would make a little video saying what topic I wanted to talk about. Like, let's talk about Lord Shalin. Let's decide like what species is he? What type of Sith interest does he have? Does he like fighting things? Does he like Sith alchemy? And then you guys would leave a bunch of comments in the video. And then the other option is, now that we're live, we could potentially do it live and kind of talk in the comments here. But the downside is that then you can't, if you don't catch the live stream live, you can't leave your own comments, which sucks. Oh, I have to remember to pick up quests as I find them too. I've been doing only the purple quests on my other character, so I have to get back in the groove of doing all quests. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here, sorry.
I have nothing to say to you right now.
This one is meet the rest at the rendezvous point. Maybe I'll go back and out and in and see if it helps. And Ninja asked, when my subscription runs out, what happens to my characters? Yeah, so you'll go back to, oh, here we go. He was like missing his little thing. You'll get 12 character slots, and you'll be able to pick 12 of your existing ones, and the ones you don't choose will be locked out for a while.
Well, brother, would you look at this? A Sith. I guess Thule isn't half as stupid as I thought. It won't do them any good, but I give them points for trying. Now, if you'd kindly hand over the payment.
this is where I have to make a major change to how I was playing. So the other character I've been playing in the mornings on Twitch is Bounty Hunter. I'm playing the Bounty Hunter for the first time, but I'm not taking her very seriously. I'm kind of just choosing whatever looks amusing to me without really caring too much about her personality or her backstory. I'm having a bit of trouble remembering exactly where Javik was, because last time I played was a year and a half ago, so I'm going to have to kind of wing it probably till we start the next planet, which kind of sucks, because Javik has so many ties to Alderaan with his backstory, but I don't remember the actual story here. So we're talking to, I want to say House Rist from their green outfits, but I don't know if that's true.
I'm not giving you a thing until I'm sure there are no tricks.
Tricks? We've only just met, and you already know me so well. I thought Thule would send some scrawny diplomat I could take hostage, but you'll fetch a higher price.
I'm going to enjoy kicking your face in.
Don't get your hopes up. We've been doing this our whole lives.
Javik's not interested in being enslaved again, not one bit. Oh, he's got so many cool powers at this point because he's level 48 from doing so many quests. We're trying to do them all, if I'm remembering correctly from the original series. Ah, oh, so much lightning! I love this class! It's by far my favorite class.
Stop! Stop this, Kai! He has the better of us, and besides, it's not worth it! The evidence is already on its way to House Ulgo. He had no intention of giving it to you.
Did you really think you could betray me?
Sam, you idiot! We could have been counts!
You've lost all sense of honor. Lying and stealing? I swore to live by a code. The runner with the evidence is delivering it to Ulgo's son, Vesix.
Sam, you'd betray your own brother? I'll kill you for that!
Damn it, Kai. I'm sorry. Look, the coordinates the runner was headed to are in the console over there. You might be able to catch him if you hurry. I'll take Kai's assassins. I promise, neither you nor Thule will hear from us again.
We won't be so merciful a second time.
I won't forget it. We owe House Thule a big favor. Good luck recovering that evidence.
I'm sorry, Doggy Dog. Dog really wanted us to choose the dark side option, apparently. Which is better, Inquisitor or Warrior questline? So I really like the Sith Inquisitor storyline, but I would say they're quite different, and they're both epic kind of in their own way. I would say the Sith Inquisitor is more about finding your own power, and the Sith Warrior is about being incredibly entangled in the power of others and dealing with that. But both are deeply tied to the dark side of the Force, and I love both of them for that. Oh, I like that you guys are saying.
I take the fact that you're rummaging around.
I like that you guys are saying. I thought you were joking, saying it sounded like Sasuke, and I didn't realize that the voice actor is very likely the same. Voice actors tend to get around a lot, so if you're talking about like the English version, it's very likely that you'll run into characters from different shows in the game.
I take the fact that you're rummaging around in the assassin's files to mean that the meeting didn't go well.
The assassin tried to take me hostage.
I expected as much. Spare no detail. If Vesix Ulgo gets that evidence, soon every house on Alderaan will know who Thule hired Rist to kill, and when. They won't just banish Thule, they'll destroy them. And the Empire's chances on Alderaan will die with them.
Just give me a chance to find Ulgo and stop them from distributing the evidence.
That may be easier said than done. Vesix Ulgo commands a squad of the most highly trained commandos on Alderaan. They have even defeated Jedi. But you may stand a chance. I have to ask you to recover that evidence. Quickly.
Trust me, I'll take care of it.
Thank you so much. Find the evidence, destroy it, and I promise you'll double the reward when you return.
Yeah, we are on the Starforge server. So something very interesting I decided for Javik a while ago is why is he... So I think this specifically was our class quest. Ooh, level 49. We're about to hit the original free-to-play level 50 limit. It got bumped up to 60 recently though, which is quite cool. Just in time for me to play Javik. Patient gamers. Patient gamers unite, right? What's in this area? Defeat wrist forces. So if you guys see the triangle marker for a quest and it isn't purple, please yell at me because I need to stop and pick it up. It's something I really gotta get back in the habit of doing again. Also gotta remember how to play my class again. That's a whole different issue. Someone asked earlier, are all the side quests worth doing? I would say another player also said only for the story, and I think I really agree with that. On my free-to-play account here, where I'm not using any XP boosts, I'm slightly hindered compared to my subscriber account by 20%, I think. I don't have any special legacy boosts or boost items or anything like that. If I do all the quests, I'm way over leveled. Like I mentioned, I'm actually just about to hit the free-to-play original maximum, and I'm only like halfway through the planets. I still have a long ways to go. But if you want to do them, do them. There's nothing that hurts you to do them. But they made it so that they're hidden by default. You can turn them on and off right here on the map. Yeah, this is actually a free-to-play account, and it still is. Oh, looks like I gotta kill some more in this area. I made it as a test because I'd heard a lot of comments about the free-to-play, whether people like it or not, or whether it's worth it or not, and I wanted to be able to form my own opinion on it instead of just listening to other people. Because other people are kind of dumb sometimes. They'll say, oh, I hate this restriction! And it turns out it's actually not that bad if you're just doing like the story. Or it turns out there's a workaround that they just didn't actually know about. So I've actually really enjoyed playing on my free-to-play account. Like as you can see, we just did a quest and we literally experienced no ill effects from doing it on our free-to-play account. Where it's gonna start hitting us hard is once we're done the expansion and the first 2 expansions that are free. Then we're gonna start seeing it a lot more, but that's a really long way down the road. I'm nowhere near that. I'm probably like maybe 100 hours of gameplay away from that. So I'm not super worried about having to subscribe at the moment. Oh, I see a quest on the map. Is this a baddie playthrough? Hey! Hi, Gaggy. Sort of. I wouldn't say he's definitely a Sith Inquisitor, but I would say he's quite a nuanced character. He's a bit immature and a bit impulsive, but he in general is a good person, but he's been through a lot in his life recently. For example, I think he attacked those guys, but he attacked them because they were trying to enslave him, and he's not down with that. And then he actually spared the life of the guy who asked for mercy. It's kind of weird going back and doing all these side quests. Really not used to it. Collect the Tears of Wrist Vengeance. What? Tears of Wrist? You found the body of a mercenary who was on a mission for SWTOR. Oh, this is what I get for not reading the quest pop-up earlier. His task was to collect samples of the Tears of Wrist, an extremely powerful toxin used by Wrist assassins. The elite Wrist who would yield the poison are known to have camps in the wilderness. Recover a sample of these. Ah, interesting. So I bet you the Wrist toxicologists are the one who have it. Alp said I was done when the game had me go after force-sensitive Jawas. Yeah, you just have to. Sometimes you gotta draw the line there. Cheers and welcome to the game, Brandon and everyone else who's returning recently or who's just recently started. Oh, I see. I need to click these little things right here. Perfect. Ah, I see. They're clearly labeled on the map for me. Another cool thing that I haven't been doing on my other characters I've been leveling is crafting. So I really like picking up the crystals and sending Kemval to go get them for me. They're real pretty, and I like not having to do the work myself. It's kind of fun that your companion kind of just does what you say. Probably have to go head over to that tent over there. I was attempting to go into stealth because I've been playing a lot of stealth characters recently. It did not work. Does the game feature any of the characters from Knights of the Old Republic games other than Revan? It's set 300 years later. So one of the main title characters is Swtorista Shan. She's actually the great something granddaughter of Bastila Shan, but in general you don't see them for the reason of it's quite past. But you get to go to some iconic places. The next planet we're going to, which I think we're not too far away, I'm not sure, is really cool. You get to go to Terrace, but it's Terrace 300 years later, and what would it be like after the bombardment of Terrace? Would you come across the Ebon Hawk? Find out on next episode of... What's your opinion on the new Star Wars movies? I like them, I guess. I don't have a super strong opinion on them. I was a bit frustrated by the lore of the final movie, but I liked Rey and I like watching them. I like The Last Jedi. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I liked it a lot. The last one I only watched once. I have to give it another rewatch and see if I like it on the second go better. Yeah, I'm quite curious. I think we will be taking Javik through the expansions if I ever get that far. I'm pretty far away though. Ah, thank you very much, Takona. And Ty. Yes, Blade Master. I missed what you were saying originally, but you don't need to rush. The original game, even if you're going very slow, you could finish it within a year. You can finish all the game's content. And the game, they're already planning the 10th anniversary, which is next December. So not this coming December, but the next one. So you've got at least until then, if not much longer, to enjoy the game. So you don't have to rush. And even if you subscribe to unlock the expansions and you unsubscribe the next month, you also don't have to rush once again because they stay unlocked. So don't stress, take your time, go at your own pace. I'm going so slow in this series because I'm just kind of enjoying wandering around, reading everything I come across, talking and thinking about my character. Ah, so much cool lightning! Oh yeah, that's right. Ben Ronald says that speaking of Knights of the Old Republic characters, you do get to meet Bastila Shan, or at least a form of her, in the Jedi Consular story. It's not quite like meeting her on Tython or something like that, though. Oh yes, the exile is the exile's teacher with them. I feel like she might be in the Jedi Consular story, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly who that is. But there's also mentions to the exile, though you may or may not like what's become of her. Unlimited power! Oh yeah, you get HK 47. Yes, he's quite present. as he's a robot and he doesn't have to worry about it being 300 years later. Yeah, there's a lot of hints, but still, in short, 300 years later. But I think they did a good job of capturing what would the world be like if it was that MMO and you got to visit these different planets that didn't exist in the original game. Nice. I don't know if we need to do... Oh, we need to release some captives. We can do that. I don't know if we need to do every bonus quest. By any chance, do you guys remember if we are doing all the bonus quests, including like kill 20 enemies? The ones that are attached in italics to normal quests? Oh, we missed him back here. One of the things I miss about playing on my main character though is I have a lot of the movement unlocks. For example, I can mount on my speeder while running. I don't even think I have rocket boots on this character. I don't think I can get it because I'm free to play. Y'all funny. I love how many of you are checking in from around the world. It's nice to see you here. I would love if you could send your companions out to Autoloot. I'd be like, Kimbal, go get that. And he'd probably eat it instead of bringing it back to me. One thing that's been driving me a little crazy lately is in group flashpoints, or group stuff in general, the looting is a bit broken, and you have to loot each body individually if you're in a group. It's like, oh no, we just killed 300 things. I don't want to pick them all up. I just want to go play with you guys. Yeah, what's going on with my lightsaber? We're not driving safely. This is against the law. I'm gonna, like, lance somebody. I think I might get stuck in a corner over here. See, head to the south. So what's going on in Star Wars The Old Republic right now? For those of you who aren't aware, the developers did a live stream not too long ago. And they talked about the future of the game, at least for this year. And obviously things got thrown off a lot by quarantine. I think that's a fair thing to give them a bit of a pass this year. I don't think anyone's expecting everything to be on schedule. So what is coming up in the fall? There's going to be a new event. I believe it's called the Feast of the Huts. I think it's maybe in September. Not entirely sure of the date off the top of my head, but it's going to be a new event, kind of like the Swoop event or the Casino event. It's going to be focused on the huts and their delicious, delicious feasts. And then another thing that's going to be coming up is in the holidays. We also don't have a date. It'll be 5.1.4, I think. It'll be called Echoes of Vengeance, and it will be the continuance of the current storyline. For those of you who are familiar with it, it's the one related to Scourge, Kira, and Satil Shan, and another important person. We won't spoil it too much for those who are still working on the expansion stories. That one I think was actually originally planned for the summer, and then it got pushed back to fall, and now it seems pretty finalized for winter. But what we also found out, which was a bit of a surprise, was that there's also going to be a Mandalorian related flashpoint, and it sounds like some story too. Wasn't 100% clear if it was just a flashpoint by itself, but it sounded like we're going to be learning about the Mandalorians and kind of where their place in the galaxy is now. They're a bit fractured, and and who are they going to be with? The Empire themselves, which Mandalore, to the Alliance. Like, there's a bunch of question marks that are kind of in the air about the fate of Mandalorians, and it'll be cool to have them discussed. I don't know if they'll be fully answered, but we'll find out a lot more, which will be neat. Oh, I found our Tears of Wrist. That's a cool quest to do. Mortem says, I've been waiting for Nautilus since launch. They added them a few months after I quit. That's bad timing. I mean, it's a good reason to come back if you've been having the itch for them. Unfortunately, you missed the window when they first came out. You could have gotten them for free if you were a subscriber back then. A player in chat says, I don't see many using a yellow crystal on their lightsaber. I think I'd rather prefer to use a red one, but I've been switching lightsabers so often as I get new ones that it doesn't seem to make sense to keep having to get a new crystal every time, mostly because I'm free to play. Happy birthday, Fuka. Happy 19th. Quarantine birthdays suck, so let's celebrate online. Ah, Straswa, you just finished the Eternal Throne expansion for the first time. Very nice. Are you gonna go on and play the next expansion too? Mike is on their first character, just got to 75, and on the Seeker Droid and Darkseid missions. I don't know if you want to spend your time there, if you want to focus on story. Those ones I liked. I don't even know if I can say I like doing them. I like having them done, but there's so much more the game has to offer, and that's not really one of its strong points. Yeah, I really, really love the Alderaan ambient soundtrack. Lord Aldeon says, you can keep the same crystal you got originally, just swap it out, doesn't cost much. Oh, I have to track that down, I guess. Yeah, I guess if I got one red crystal, I could keep swapping them in and out. It's just kind of, I don't know, I'm lazy, I guess. I don't really worry too much about my looks of my character or the stats and mods and stuff until I get to endgame. Yeah, for those of you who have a security key, you should have quite a few cartel coins saved up if you haven't played in a long time. They just kind of keep accruing, I think. Sadly, we couldn't get any cartel coins for the security key on Javik, because you can only have one security key per account. And I put it on my main account for security reasons, and now Javik can't have. I was thinking at some point to like do the math to see how many I would have and like gift him from my main account. Oh, I should have read that. Darn it. Gotta get back in the habit. You found a body of a dead Imperial intelligence operative who has been tasked with wiping Imperial names from House Risk's database of assassination targets. The entrance to House Risk's main compound is nearby. Let's get a key card. Oh, Mike is asking about the story. So here is a super awesome story guide, and that might be the one you saw on Reddit, or you might have seen the kind of little chart. But yeah, it'll tell you where to go next. So you're on Makeb / Rise of the Hutt Cartel, so if you want, you can skip the Seeker Droid quests and go on to the next one, I would say. It's just that technically they happen next in the story. What is it that makes you keep playing the game for so long? Asks a player in chat. I can't imagine myself playing one game for such a long period of time. So basically an MMO is designed that is to be played for months or even years. And one of the big ways that it does that compared to a normal game is the sheer variety of things you can do in a game. For example, the most well-known basic ones. Why is there like a bush floating in the wall up here? Is that like a sacred bush? There's like statues and then a bush. Oh, I see. It's supposed to have a planter, but the planter's not there. So for example, most games, most online MMORPGs have player versus player, like war zones, and have a basic solo story, and then have like dungeons and raids. SWTOR has all those things plus a lot more. So in short, what I often do is I jump around from content to content. So for example, in the beginning of the year, I was super interested in crafting and reverse engineering for level 75, and that system is really complex, and I was researching the heck out of it. Recently, I've been super into Galactic Starfighter, and that's a whole new system on its own to learn. It's almost as complex as the original, like 8 class combat classes, and then it's got all the harder aspects of being player versus player in space. Recently, I've been wanting to finish all 8 class stories, which I haven't yet after 9 years, so I'm finishing a bounty hunter and seeing that story. I've been doing some more challenging content, like I soloed Master Mode Red Reaper, which is 4-person difficult group content. I did that alone on a class I'd never played before. That was super fun to do. It was like an awesome challenge. I'm checking out the SWTOR storyline option for the expansions, which I'd never tried out before, and there's just like, I feel like there's so many aspects of the game that I've not even really touched yet, and I'd love to see, I don't know, I'd love to see every aspect of the game. So I usually spend like a max of 3 months on any specific topic of interest, I guess you could say, and bounce around a lot. What would you say is the most epic SWTOR moment? For me, it would be meeting Valkorion for the first time, but that's a pretty cool one. I really love a lot of the finales of the original class stories. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's so many cool things. Like, as a trooper, you get to really feel like a member of the Republic military storming the keep, I guess you could say. It's super cool. Is this, what are we, maybe whatever we need is downstairs? Are you in cahoots with the developers? If so, can you ask them to let players be able to change the night and day at your stronghold? Wouldn't that be fun? No, I have no cahoots. And if I was in cahoots, I would probably try and focus on fixing issues that a lot of players experience. When I do contact them, that's what I usually try and reserve it for when I make requests. Like one of the things I'd really like fixed right now is issues with the launcher and issues with being able to subscribe through the website and Steam. Just like things like that are where I save my little wish lists for. Do you keep the expansions if your subscription ends? Yes, you subscribe once, and everything you unlock you get to keep even if you unsubscribe the next month. No problem. I like how many quests there were in House Risk. That was pretty cool. I wish I'd stopped to read them. I'm sorry I've gotten into some bad questing habits. How long can you spend on a single character? I mean, like, if you're just running through the expansions from... Hearing so many noises upstairs. From start to finish, that would be like 300 hours if you're going slow and just doing every planet, every quest. And that doesn't even include all the group content and stuff. If you could fix one thing wrong with SWTOR, what would it be? Absolutely the launcher. Like, everything else in the game you can Google and there will be a tutorial, but if you can't get your launcher working, you just rage quit. And like, the errors are so, like, you've encountered a C5 error. And you're like, thanks, I know exactly what that means. And then you throw your computer at the wall. I feel like it keeps so many players out of the game who just want to play and they can't even actually open the game. Jaya said, I would love to see more features for role players. Yeah, so what's interesting is they actually consider a lot of the things they've added over the years kind of more geared towards role players. For example, strongholds are kind of something they consider more towards the role-playing fan base, which the role-play fan base has definitely taken good advantage of, at least everyone I know. What server do you play on? I am on Starforge. I'm having trouble understanding where I'm going. Why do I keep dying on Eternal Championship? Yeah, that one is I did need to go in this way. I misread the map. That is a quite difficult piece of content. So there's two things that I'm gonna send you to make things easier for you. So the first one is Swtorista difficult.
I'm here.
So I'm not gonna play an ad. Here's the first link, difficult. And I also have a guide about the Eternal Championship. So that first video kind of talks about what do you do when things are hard and you're playing solo? And the second one will teach you some tips about the Eternal Championship. Do you work as a playtester, have an unrelated job, an incredible mind for instant jumping between environments? Well, so I am not related to SWTOR. I'm in something called the Content Creators Program, where they give us a little bit of support. Like they answer questions a little more often than an average player would get answers or emails to. They sometimes give us codes to give away. That's pretty much it. Like they sent me a screenshot of something no one else had yet, so that was cool the other day. But I'm not like related to the actual development team in any way. But I really just, I don't know, I get bored easily, so jumping around is not necessarily a positive trait, it's just what I enjoy. Something I've been trying to work on, like my personal growth as I got older, was, although I do like to jump around a lot, is to actually finish projects before I move on. So I've been getting better at that, and I'm quite proud of that progress. But when it comes to the gaming aspect of what I'm finding fun, I don't see any reason to stick around and continue playing something I'm not enjoying, or there's no real reason to go not start that 6th character, or go play Galactic Starfighter or whatever else. Aaron says, when I tab to my browser, when I switch back to the game, I get a loading screen. Try going escape, preferences, and graphics, and choose full screen window. That should stop the loading screen you get. Oh, we got to a cool area. It took us a while to get here, but we got to like an outside area here. Defeat the Rish ambush! The hoots coots! Just curious, would you rather Knights of the Old Republic 3 or remastered 1 and 2? I think 1 and 2 are fine. They're not the best graphics these days, but I'd really like to see Knights of the Old Republic 3 be written kind of in line with 1 and 2 and independent of Star Wars The Old Republic. I would buy that while continuing to play Star Wars The Old Republic. Would you like to see greater community and developer contact, such as allowing players to vote on development? I would. Right now, I feel one of the problems with getting feedback is it's very scattered. Like, someone will say, like, I have the best idea for the game that I think the developers should absolutely add to the game. They should add a hood toggle so that when I put on this armor, I can decide whether my hood shows or not. And it's like, dude, people have been suggesting that since like 2011. This is not a unique suggestion. And it's really scattered where people give feedback. Like, they give it on social media, they give it at events, they give it on the forums, and it's really hard to like track like how many people want Hood Toggle and what are they willing to not necessarily pay for it, but are they willing to subscribe more? Are they willing to pay more cartel coins? It feels like it's very difficult to get that kind of feedback, and I like the idea of voting, but I don't know if it's actually good. They've talked a bit about how voting can often end to misleading results. Like if you say, do you want a Flashpoint or a new PvP? Maybe everyone votes Flashpoint, but is it a solo Flashpoint you want? Is it a group Flashpoint, a difficult Flashpoint, a story-focused Flashpoint? So you might not even get what you want.
Congratulations, Sith.
No, thank you.
You've broken into my home, butchered my assassins, and forced your way into my personal chambers. Can I at least offer you a drink before you start making demands?
A drink would be nice.
Excellent. People have so little time for hospitality these days. So tell me, what does the bright-eyed young daughter of Thule want from Untitled?
I believe this has your name on it.
Well, well. Let me guess. You dug this holo out of some dusty archive in House Older. Let's just say that his Royal Jedi-ness Nomor Organa and I are ancient history and leave that dead dog buried.
There must have been some good times.
I don't know what you expect me to say. Nomor Organa and I were in love. I'm sure he'd write it off as misguided youthfulness, but it's true. We were going to get married, in spite of our family's disapproval, and then he got cold feet. That's all.
Then you won't mind calling him up so I can kill him.
What? No, I couldn't. I don't know what you think I am.
I like how that was just kind of like a bluff.
So you still have feelings for him?
Having feelings for someone and not wanting them dead are very different things, Sith. If you expect to get any information out of me so that you can kill Nomar, you're mistaken. I've seen more of war than either you or that little bird Thule, and you won't get anything out of me without a fight.
Alright. Fight it is. Oh, she stunned me right off the bat. Let's just take a little nap. We'll let her spin for a bit. If they ever did a Knights of the Old Republic remaster, I hope they don't change anything in the story. Like, I honestly would hope they keep all the same voice lines and voice actors and stuff.
All right. You win. I'll call him. Nomor Organa's not worth dying for. But then I want you out of my home.
Call Nomar Organa and I'll go.
Let me bring him up.
Rahana, what a surprise.
I know, it must be. Nomar, there's something I need to talk to you about.
Go ahead. Anything I can do. Anything at all.
Not like this. It's a favor I need, here on Alderaan. I was hoping we could meet.
Of course. I can be there in a few hours. The old place?
Yes, the old place. Thank you. There. Are you happy now?
Ooh, I can shock her and kill her.
Where's Nomar going to be?
I'll give you the coordinates, but I won't come with you. And you'd better get out of here. The meeting spot is in an underground cave near House Cortez, but the entrance tunnels are filled with Killiks. So good luck.
What exactly are Killiks?
Bugmen. And I hope they tear you to pieces. Now get out of my house!
Oh, she is the Lady of Pain. I just recently did that on my bounty hunter. That's cool. Get out of my house. Let's go kill her husband. By the way, for those of you who are currently playing SWTOR and are watching this either live or close to when it was released, the current events coming up are August 25th is the end of the casino event. See if we can just run through here. Apparently not. And the next upcoming event is the Dantooine Incursion, the Dantooine Pirate event. That's for levels 20 and up, and that will be August 25th to September 1st. And then we don't know what's coming up after that. Oh, a player asked an interesting question earlier. What planet can I get a red crystal? It's kind of a weird thing. Like, you'd think there'd be a quest like to go get a green crystal or a quest to go get a blue crystal. But in general, you just sometimes get them randomly if you're lucky in a lightsaber or something like that. But in general, you just buy them from other players who craft them. So you would check the GTN rather than a specific planet. They run between 50,000 to 100,000 for the basic color crystals on my server.
I'm unfollow.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to hide from everyone here. I made a bad life choice. I just aggroed everyone and tried to run, but I didn't get to run far enough. What is your PC setup? I don't want to pull it up right now, but if you Google Swtorista computer, I've got a video up actually about our setup, and it has the specs in the description if you don't want to watch the whole video. Ooh, I see another Sith Inquisitor. Doing some good Force lightning. Did you ever die in this game? Well, yeah, like all the time. Usually when I'm not paying attention is when I die. And I'm just kind of like talking to you guys and not actually watching my health or the fight. And then in difficult content, I just die over and over and over till I get it. Hello, nature guy. I don't want to be in a group, thank you. Do you think bringing back companion gearing would be a good idea? Asked a player in chat. Personally, no. From what I can tell, the reason they removed the ability to gear your companions was because it was a bit complicated for newer players to keep up with. Managing your own gear, especially at a high level, is already quite a task. You've got, what is it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pieces, and now you've at level 75 you technically have 15, and then you've also got augments and all the mods and enhancements. I think that's quite overwhelming as it is, and I bet you they crunched some numbers and they found out that a lot of players didn't even realize they could gear their companions. That's my guess. And so they're just running around with these companions. They're like level 50 and their companions still wearing like level 2 gear, which is absolutely not something they want. Loki's asking, they're doing the bounty event, which is running, I think today is like the last day. If you're watching this right now, you've got tonight and I think early tomorrow morning. They got reputation items. You will be able to use those next week, so just stash those for later if you earn too many. Jay says 14 pieces is overwhelming. Try Star Trek Online. I have no idea what the gearing system is like there. It sounds like it's a little more. And Kira has asked, have you played through every class type? Example, Sniper and Operative, Vanguard and Commando. No, but that's actually something I've been trying to do more of this year, is to try out the classes that I haven't tried yet. I eventually want to be able to make a little basics guide about all of them. so that players who are brand new have something to look at, so they don't have to look at a full level 75 guide. Most recent one I checked out was the Concealment Operative, and that was quite fun. And I'm just starting to check out the Operative, not Lethality, not Concealment, but the third one. Having a hard time remembering what it is. But like Sniper, I barely tried at all. The Warrior and Jedi Knight, all of the advanced classes I haven't even tried very much of. But yeah, there's 24 different play styles, basically 48 if you count the mirrors, which I think I would because they look quite different even if they play the same. I think I need to go turn some stuff in there, but I failed miserably at doing that. Let's head back over there. Oh wow, Lord Aladion is saying in Star Trek Online, you have to gear your senior officers to your ship on top of your character. I mean, technically in SWTOR you have to gear your ship, but nobody cares about that. That's certainly something, yeah. And we found, as far as I can tell, SWTOR has one of the player bases with the lowest skill level, and this is because so many players are new to gaming and online gaming, and it has the draw of being Star Wars, and they're like, oh, I heard there's this cool Star Wars game you can play that has cool stories, or my friend likes it and I want to try it out. So I really want stuff like that you do while running the story, like having your companion with you and be the correct level, to be as easy as possible for those new players so they can enjoy the awesome story. I keep seeing these crystals and I just really want them. I don't really need them technically because I'm not actually crafting. But in my head I just like, oh, sparkly, need to get that. Yeah, I would say SWTOR is a really good entry MMO because they've really tried to take advantage, or rather, when they're changing stuff, take note that the player base is often a little less skilled than other MMOs. So they've simplified early level stuff a lot over the years. Can I fit through this hole? Ah! Otherwise I have to find a whole new route. Jump, Javik! Jump, 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 jump! Oh, I think there might be an invisible wall right here. Oh, there is, darn. We can go our own way. Mortem asks, do you ever see Empire guilds raiding Republic settlements and vice versa? So I can't remember exactly when, but when they did the giant server changes, they also made it so that the PvP instances are separate. So back in the day, I was on a server where there was only PvP instances, and that was kind of cool, and there was actually quite a bit of player versus player events and raiding of settlements and stuff like that, but they were always organized events. Like, they were very rarely spontaneous. And now that there are no PvP servers anymore, I don't see that very often. I do, however, occasionally see people posting world player versus player events on Reddit every once in a while. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, I would keep your eyes open there. But there's really no reward to it. Oh, this is part of the Zakul stuff. I should avoid this area. Right, there's no reward for it, and it makes your computer a slideshow. But it's quite fun still if you ever get to do one. Oh, medicine is the third operative spec, so what was I playing? That's a good question. I'll have to go take a better look at that character. Maybe I was playing lethality and I forgot or something. Did I finally get to my quest? I did. Awesome. Took me a while to get here, but I made it.
Tell me you've defeated Vesix. Tell me you managed to destroy the evidence of Thul's misdeeds before Ulgo was able to distribute it.
Thul's secrets are safe.
Never in my entire life have I been so relieved. Here is a reward from House Thul. You've done a great thing for the Empire. I hope you realize that.
Gliv is asking, are the expansions harder than the original content? So yes and no. If you're not a very skilled player, the expansions will be slightly harder, but not a lot harder. If you're a skilled player, they're going to be about the same. The cool thing is, if you're looking for a challenge, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this on this free-to-play account. Sort of. Okay, so when you go to play the 3rd and 4th expansion, they actually have a difficulty mode that you can set story, veteran, and master. And veteran is quite hard, and master is very hard. Like, I know very few people who have done it. But the first 2 expansions are about the same difficulty level.
News of your actions is rippling across Alderaan. The Rist are wounded.
It's done now.
You're right. It's been an honor. I've always dreamed of working with you. I'll continue monitoring Rist. If they plan to retaliate, we'll hear about it first.
Maximilian, then, welcome. I hope you're able to understand what I'm saying and I'm not speaking too quickly. I like to watch French streams. I find it difficult to understand when they're saying Star Wars words because I never learned them when I was a child learning French. Let's see. Where's our quest? Aha! Box. Hello, OBT. Yeah, Puppy. Puppy really wanted us to turn in those quests. For sure. That's what she was barking about. La Force. Yes, that's what it's called in French, right?
Welcome. Please select
There's
your
actually
available
quite a
travel
few
route.
French streamers that I like. I wish I knew how to figure it out, but on Twitch I've seen quite a few. I don't really know what the streaming situation on YouTube is like. OBT says, it's rare to see someone playing this game, miss this game so much. Yeah, I really like this game. I've only just started streaming on YouTube. I don't know how many people stream it here, but it'll be every Monday at 3 PM we'll be playing. I'm doing a little roleplay and story along the way. I wonder what Javik feels about flying on these giant whales, speaking of roleplay. Like, this is just, you know, this is my life now as a Sith. And Janesh is saying, I'm trying to do the Shadow Revan questline. Is it easier to do with a friend? I'm finding it hard even to do in solo mode. Yeah, so I'm going to send you the difficult fight tips link, and this is going to be perfect for you too. Maybe just bookmark it to read for later. And that's ways you can improve yourself solo. And you can totally bring a friend, but they're kind of just a hanger's honor. They can't like really complete the quest with you, but they can help you fight stuff. But because you've got like 4 expansions to go down the road, still, I would actually recommend trying to improve yourself to get to a point where you play with friends for fun, not because you have to. Because the actual group content in the game that's designed for groups is way more fun to do with a friend than doing the solo content, I would say, because it's actually built to be done together. Oh, I was supposed to be in the tent, my bad. I see someone's following me around on a Rancor, but I mostly just want to play by myself today.
My lord, please stand by a moment. I have urgent orders to put you into contact with my superior, Darth Victus.
Ah, you've arrived, finally. I'm told that you've served Darth Zash well in your time as her apprentice. I am Darth Victus. Our Empire has need of you, Sith, here and now.
Depends on what you want me to do.
The task at hand involves House Pantia, the weakened former rulers of Alderaan. Though most believe them wiped out, a few stragglers yet survive. These surviving Pantiers are needed to legitimize House Thul's eventual rule. We are creating an understanding with them even now, but the forces of House Ulgo plan to interfere.
How can I serve the Empire in this matter, my lord?
Ulgo has strike teams massing Thranta for transport. They intend to assault the Pantier's mountain hideaway and slaughter all surviving members of the House. The eradication of House Pantier would greatly impede our plans for House Thul's ascendance. It cannot be allowed. You will find the Ulgo strike teams and destroy them at once.
There will be no survivors.
I would accept nothing less. When it is done, report back to Lieutenant Muir. We will continue our discussion then. Farewell.
I see you in the background. Somehow they invaded my cutscene. Here's your 5 minutes of fame. The King Gamer. By 5 minutes, I mean 2 seconds. So next we are gonna go head out and do some of those quests. We are actually going to be heading out real soon here in about 4 minutes. And we'll call it a day, and same time next week at 3 p.m. California time, so that's Pacific time. If you're in the East Coast, that'll be 6 p.m. EDT. And that'll be Mondays on YouTube. And if you're up earlier in the morning, at 8 a.m. PDT every morning on weekdays, I stream on Twitch. Same name. A player asked, how long did it take you to get to the end of the crafting route? It took a really long time. It was ridiculous. I was very unhappy with it. Another player asked, is there... I see a lot of players not using the class buff. Is there a reason for that? Because lazy. An average player can button mash the 1 key and you can kill everything, so you don't really need the class buffs anymore. And so, like, I honestly don't even bother hitting it most of the time just because I don't care. Other players, maybe new players, maybe don't even really understand what it is, because most abilities are like attack abilities, so they may not understand that this is something that you keep reapplying every 60 minutes or so for some awesome buff. Alright, I think this is a good time to call it a day. I don't know if you can raid people in YouTube. You guys will have to let me know, but thank you so much for joining me for this stream, especially for those of you who are here at the beginning when we are doing an hour of just reading out his backstory. That was really useful to me to be able to learn and to recover where we were in the story. Trig asked, how does Javik feel about being back on Alderaan? I think he was feeling a little conflicted because he was originally there as a child and then they fled, and then his most recent memories were of being a page to House Thul, and they were allied to House Pantier at one point too. So he's feeling very strange now that he's this powerful, not quite a Sith Lord, but under a Sith Lord's command, and he can get away with a lot, and he's no longer a little kid anymore. Bye, you guys. Have a great day. See you later. Bye. Bye-bye. See ya. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream. Bye.